I'm standing on a makeshift stage in the middle of my parents' country club ballroom right now, at exactly 8:47 p.m. on a Saturday night in October, holding a wireless microphone in my right hand that's shaking so badly I have to grip it with both hands just to keep it from visibly trembling. And I'm watching my mother's face cycle through every shade of white to gray to red to purple to something approaching green in about 3 seconds flat, like some kind of horrifying mood ring made of human flesh and terror. My father looks like someone just walked up to him very calmly, very politely, and informed him in the most matter-of-fact tone possible that his entire retirement portfolio, every single stock, every single bond, every single mutual fund spontaneously evaporated into thin air overnight, and there's absolutely nothing anyone can do about it. My brother Derek, who is 29 years old and usually so composed and professional in his expensive tailored suits, is frozen halfway out of his chair like someone hit pause on a movie, his champagne glass suspended in midair at a 45-degree angle, his mouth opening and closing and opening and closing like a fish that's been yanked out of the ocean by a cruel fisherman and is slowly, agonizingly drowning in air instead of water. Behind me, projected on the absolutely massive screen that takes up the entire back wall of the ballroom, the screen that was supposed to be showing a carefully curated, heartwarming slideshow of my parents' 40 years of sacrifice and hard work and dedication to family, complete with sepia-toned baby photos and wedding pictures with terrible 80s hair and family vacation, snapshots from Disney World and graduations and anniversaries, and all the normal things that normal families display at retirement parties is a bank statement. A very, very specific bank statement. One that shows a college savings account that belongs to me, Sophie Marie Martinez, age 30. Or rather, that belonged to me, that should belong to me. The account that my beloved grandfather, Miguel Antonio Martinez, opened at First National Bank on the day I was born, March 6th, 1994, and contributed to faithfully, religiously, obsessively for 18 years straight without ever missing a single deposit. The account that should have approximately $237,000 in it right now, according to all the calculations I've done, all the compound interest formulas I've run, all the investment growth projections that any reasonable financial advisor would make, but it doesn't have $237,000 in it. The current balance, which I've highlighted in the brightest, most fluorescent, most impossible to ignore yellow color that exists in the entire spectrum of highlighter markers for absolutely maximum visibility to every single person in this ballroom full of 200 of my parents' closest friends, and business associates and church members and country club cronies, reads exactly $847.23. $847.23 out of $237,000. The silence in the ballroom is so complete, so absolute, so total and overwhelming that I can hear things I shouldn't be able to hear. I can hear the ice cubes melting in people's crystal glasses at tables that are literally 25 feet away from me. I can hear someone's stomach gurgling from too much champagne and not enough appetizers. I can hear the central air conditioning system humming through the vents in the ceiling. I can hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears like a bass drum at a death metal concert. Boom, 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 boom. So loud it's almost painful. I can hear the rustle of fabric as someone shifts uncomfortably in their seat. I can hear breathing. I can hear everything. Good evening, everyone, I say into the microphone, and my voice comes out steady and calm and almost pleasant, like I'm a keynote speaker at a professional conference or a teacher addressing a classroom full of students or a tour guide welcoming visitors to a museum. I've practiced this exact moment for 3 months straight. Every single word, every single pause, every single inflection and emphasis and gesture. I know this speech better than I knew any exam I ever took in college, better than I know my own phone number, better than I know the lyrics to my favorite songs. I'm Sophie Martinez, the daughter. The youngest child. For those of you who don't know me personally, and let's be completely, brutally honest here, that's probably most of you in this room because my parents don't really talk about me very much at their various social gatherings. That makes perfect sense. I understand completely. I'm not really part of the carefully constructed narrative they present to their social circle. I'm not really part of the story they tell about their lives. But they talk plenty about my brother Derek over there. I gesture toward him with my free hand, pointing directly at him so there's absolutely no ambiguity about who I'm referencing. Derek the entrepreneur. Derek the success story. Derek the brilliant business owner. Derek the Stanford MBA graduate. Derek, their golden child, their pride and joy, their reason for living, the son they brag about at every possible opportunity. 200 faces swivel in perfect, choreographed unison to look at Derek like they're all puppets being controlled by the exact same invisible puppeteer pulling the exact same strings at the exact same moment. He shrinks visibly into his chair like he's trying to physically compress himself into a smaller size, trying to disappear completely through the expensive burgundy upholstery, his wife Lindsay grabbing his arm with white-knuckled fingers so tight I can see them from here. But before I continue with what I actually came here to say tonight, before I get into the real meat of my presentation, I do want to take a moment to sincerely thank all of you for coming to celebrate my parents' retirement. I genuinely mean that. This is a huge milestone. This is a major life achievement. Retiring at 58 and 60 years old in today's economy, in this job market, with the cost of living what it is, that's quite an accomplishment. That's actually impressive. Most people in America today work until they're 65, 70, sometimes even longer just to make ends meet, just to keep the lights on, just to afford their medications and their mortgage payments. But my parents, Carol Martinez and James Martinez, they were smart with their money. Very, very smart. They made excellent investment decisions. They planned carefully for the future. They lived within their means. They saved aggressively. Or should I say, I pause here deliberately, intentionally, letting the silence stretch out until it becomes uncomfortable, until people start shifting in their seats, until the tension becomes almost unbearable. They were smart with my money. I click the small remote control in my left hand, the one I specifically bought for this presentation, the one I practiced with hundreds of times to make sure I wouldn't fumble it at the crucial moment. The projection on the massive screen behind me changes instantly to the next slide, which is a withdrawal receipt blown up absolutely huge so that everyone in the room, even the people in the very back, even the people with bad vision, can read every single detail of every single line. The date printed at the top reads the 18th of August, 2008. The amount, printed in large, bold numbers, reads $50,000. The memo line, in smaller but still perfectly legible text, says Derek's Startup Capital, Martinez Consulting LLC, initial investment round. This particular withdrawal, I say, keeping my voice steady and measured and calm like I'm giving a pleasant PowerPoint presentation about quarterly sales figures or vacation photos from a beach resort, happened exactly 2 weeks after I moved into my freshman dorm room at State University. Exactly 14 days after I said goodbye to my high school friends and packed up my entire childhood bedroom into cardboard boxes and drove 3 hours to campus with my parents helping me unload everything. $50,000, withdrawn in a single transaction, removed from the college fund that my grandfather, Miguel Martinez, my mother's father, the man who raised her, the man who worked as a construction foreman for 63 years and saved every penny he could set up for me on the literal day I was born. He contributed to it faithfully, religiously, obsessively for 18 years straight, every single birthday without fail, every single Christmas morning, every time he had even a tiny bit of extra money from overtime or a bonus. He wanted to make sure his granddaughter would never, ever have to worry about paying for her education. And this $50,000 withdrawal happened during the exact same week, the exact same 7-day period when my parents sat me down at our kitchen table with very serious faces and very grave tones and told me that they'd hit some unexpected financial difficulties, and unfortunately, regrettably, sadly wouldn't be able to help me with my college expenses after all, that I was completely on my own financially, that I'd have to figure it out myself. I let that information hang in the air for a long moment, let it sink into people's consciousness, let them really process what I'm telling them. I can see people starting to shift uncomfortably in their chairs, their expensive chairs with the white fabric covers and the elegant bows. I can see my mother's best friend, Patricia, staring at my parents with her mouth hanging slightly open in shock and disbelief. I can see my Uncle Ricardo slowly shaking his head back and forth like he can't quite believe what he's hearing. I can see people exchanging meaningful glances with their spouses, their dates, their friends. Click. The next slide appears instantly. The date says the 15th of September, 2008. The withdrawal amount says $35,000. The memo line reads, home renovation, kitchen remodel, complete demolition, and rebuild. $35,000 for a complete kitchen renovation, I continue. And I make absolutely sure my voice stays pleasant, stays conversational, stays friendly, like we're all just friends here, chatting casually about home improvement projects and contractor estimates. That's a really, really nice kitchen you have there, Mom. I've seen the extensive photos you posted on Facebook when the work was done. Beautiful Italian marble countertops imported directly from Tuscany, custom cherry wood cabinets with soft closed drawers, that professional-grade 6-burner gas range that cost more than most people's cars, the farmhouse sink, the subway tile backsplash, the pendant lighting, the hardwood floors, very tasteful, very expensive, very Instagram-worthy. I remember seeing those renovation photos pop up in my Facebook feed while I was sitting in my dorm room at 9 o'clock at night on a Tuesday eating ramen noodles for dinner again because I'd already spent my entire week's food budget on required textbooks for my organic chemistry class that cost $400 total. Your caption on those kitchen photos, if I remember correctly, was, "Sometimes you just have to treat yourself. Life is short. We work hard and we deserve nice things." Very inspirational. Really spoke to me on a deep, personal level. A few people around the room actually gasp out loud. Not subtle little intakes of breath that you might miss if you weren't paying attention. Actual audible gasps of shock and horror and disbelief. My mother's face has now progressed from purple to a genuinely concerning shade that I don't think has an official name in the Pantone color matching system. My father is gripping the edge of the white linen tablecloth so hard that his knuckles have gone completely white, and I'm genuinely worried he might actually rip it right off the table and send all the crystal glasses and china plates and silverware crashing to the floor. Click. The 3rd of October, 2008. Withdrawal amount, $28,000. Memo line, European vacation package. 3 weeks. Paris, Rome, Barcelona, Amalfi Coast, first class. $28,000 for a 3-week luxury tour of Europe, I say. And now I'm really getting into my rhythm, really finding my flow, my voice taking on an almost cheerful, enthusiastic quality that makes the actual content of what I'm saying even more devastating by contrast. Paris, Rome, Barcelona, the Amalfi Coast, first-class airline tickets both ways, 4-star hotels in the center of every city, private tour guides who spoke perfect English, wine tastings at exclusive vineyards, gondola rides in Venice, the Louvre, the Colosseum, Sagrada Familia, the works, the full European vacation experience. I still have the postcard you sent me from the top of the Eiffel Tower, Dad. It's in a box in my closet. Do you remember what it said? Let me make sure I get this quote exactly, precisely, word for word correct because I've read it so many times over the years that I have it completely memorized. Dear Sophie, having the most amazing time of our lives. Paris is beautiful. The food is incredible. Seeing the world, wish you were here. Can't wait to tell you all about it. All our love, Mom and Dad. That was really lovely. Really thoughtful of you to think of me while you were sipping champagne at a cafe with a view of the Seine. Especially touching, since exactly 2 weeks before that postcard arrived in my dorm mailbox, I had called you on the phone, crying, actually sobbing so hard I could barely speak because I didn't have money for my biology textbook, and the professor said we absolutely had to have our own copy. We couldn't share, and I was panicking about failing the class and losing my scholarship. And you told me, let me make absolutely certain I get this quote word for word correct too, because this one is burned into my memory forever. Sophie, honey, we just don't have $50 to spare right now. Money is really, really tight for us. Maybe you could talk to your professor about using a library copy? Or maybe ask if you can share with another student even though he said no? Or maybe you could pick up some extra shifts at work? The room has progressed from uncomfortable silence to something approaching horrified, stunned, shocked silence. The quality of the quiet has fundamentally changed. It's not just people being polite anymore, not just people waiting patiently for the speaker to finish. It's people being genuinely, deeply shocked by what they're hearing. I can see faces turning red with embarrassment or shame or anger. I can see people exchanging increasingly alarmed glances with their companions. I can see my Aunt Carmen, my mother's younger sister, wiping actual tears from her eyes with a cloth napkin. I can see my grandmother, my abuela Rosa, sitting absolutely still with one hand pressed over her heart, staring at my parents like she's seeing them for the very first time in her entire life and doesn't recognize what she's looking at. Click. The 12th of November, 2008. Withdrawal amount, $32,000. Memo line. Investment property down payment, 847 Maple Street, duplex, rental income potential. $32,000 for a down payment on a rental investment property, I say, and I make sure to point directly at the memo line on the screen with a red laser pointer I brought specifically for this purpose. That's the duplex over on Maple Street on the east side of town, isn't it, Dad? The nice one with the big yard and the 2 separate entrances? The one you've been renting out to tenants for the past 11 years? The one you're always talking about at Thanksgiving dinners and family barbecues as one of your smartest investment decisions and one of the keys to your comfortable retirement? Let me do some quick math here for everyone in the audience. Monthly rental income of approximately $1,400 per unit. So that's about $2,800 total monthly income. And I'm actually being conservative here. It's probably more like $3,000 a month now, with rent increases over the years, times 12 months in a year, times 11 years of ownership. That's $369,600 in total rental income over 11 years. All of it, every single penny, generated by an investment property that was purchased with a down payment made with money that my grandfather specifically, explicitly, legally, formally designated for my education and only my education in legally binding trust documents. I pause to let that information really sink into people's brains, to let them really process what I'm telling them, to let them understand that this isn't just about my parents spending my college money on vacations and kitchen renovations. This is about them stealing my money and investing it to generate passive income for themselves. This is about them turning my stolen inheritance into their retirement fund. I pull a folded piece of yellowed paper out of the inside pocket of my blazer. It's old, genuinely old, with creases from being folded and unfolded many times. The edges are slightly brown and brittle. The handwriting on it is my grandfather's distinctive script, the letters slightly shaky from the chemotherapy he was undergoing when he wrote it, but still perfectly legible. I hold it up high so everyone in the ballroom can see it, can see that this is a real document, not something I made up. This is a letter from my grandfather, Miguel Martinez. I say, and my voice gets quieter now, more intimate, more emotional, and I notice that people actually lean forward in their seats to hear me better. He wrote this letter in April of 2006, about 2 months before he died of pancreatic cancer in the hospice ward at County General Hospital. It was in a sealed envelope in his safety deposit box at the bank, addressed specifically to my parents with instructions that it be given to them when they became trustees of my college fund. My grandmother, Abuela Rosa, who's sitting right over there, I point to her, just gave this to me last week. She found it while she was going through some old papers and documents in preparation for moving to a smaller apartment. She didn't even know this letter existed. She never saw it before. Would anyone in this room like to hear what my grandfather wrote? What his actual, explicit wishes were regarding this money? Sophie, I'm warning you. Don't you dare, my mother starts to say. Her voice high-pitched and strained and desperate, and she's half rising out of her chair, her napkin falling from her lap to the floor. Sit down, mother. My voice doesn't get louder, but it gets harder, colder, sharper, like ice instead of water, like steel instead of aluminum. Right now, sit down and be quiet. You had 11 years, 11 entire years, 4,015 days to have this conversation with me in private, to explain yourself, to apologize, to make things right, to do literally anything except what you actually did, which was nothing. You can give me 10 minutes in public to tell these people the truth about what you did. She sits down immediately, abruptly, like I've physically pushed her back into the chair with invisible hands. Her face is wet with tears and snot, and mascara is running down her cheeks in black streaks. I unfold the letter very carefully, very deliberately, smoothing out all the creases with my fingers. My hands are shaking slightly, but my voice stays absolutely steady, completely controlled, when I start reading my grandfather's words out loud. Dear Carol and James, I read slowly and clearly, making absolutely certain that every single person in this ballroom can hear every single syllable. I am writing this letter to make my wishes crystal clear, completely unambiguous, impossible to misunderstand regarding the college fund I have established for my granddaughter, Sophie Marie Martinez. I want there to be absolutely no confusion, no ambiguity, no room for interpretation about this matter. The money in that account, every single dollar, every single penny, is for Sophie and only Sophie. It is specifically, exclusively designated for her education, her future, her dreams, her opportunities, her life. You are listed as trustees on this account only because she is currently a minor, only 17 years old, and someone with legal authority needs to manage the investments until she turns 18 and can take control herself. But make absolutely no mistake about this. This is not a family fund. This is not a general savings account. This is not an emergency fund for unexpected household expenses. This is not money for you to borrow from when times get tough or when you need cash for something. This is Sophie's inheritance from me to her, just as surely and legally as if I had left her real estate property or jewelry or stocks in my will when I die. I look up from the letter briefly to scan the room. Every single eye is locked on me. You could hear a pin drop on the carpet. I can see my mother's shoulders shaking with sobs. I continue reading. I have worked my whole life for 63 years since I was 14 years old and dropped out of school to help support my family doing construction work, building things with my own 2 hands, pouring concrete and hammering nails and carrying lumber in the hot sun and the freezing cold, saving every penny I possibly could, living frugally, sacrificing my own comfort, all to give my granddaughter opportunities that I never had, to make sure she can get the best education possible without the crushing burden of student loan debt that I carried for decades and that destroyed my credit and limited my options. You are her parents, and I trust you. I am choosing to trust you to honor this wish, to respect my intentions, to protect this money for her. Please, I am begging you. I am pleading with you as my daughter and my son-in-law. Please invest it wisely. Let it grow and compound. Keep it safe. And when Sophie turns 18 and is ready to go to college, Give her every single penny that's in that account, plus all the growth it's generated. That is all I ask. That is my dying wish. Please do not let me down. Please do not let her down. Please do not betray this trust I am placing in you. With all my love and with all my hope for the future, Miguel Antonio Martinez. My voice actually breaks a little bit, cracks with genuine emotion, when I say my grandfather's full name out loud. The tears in my eyes right now are real, not performance, not manipulation. The grief in my voice is completely authentic. This is my abuelo's actual final wish, written down in his own shaking hand while he was dying, and my parents completely betrayed it. The room is absolutely silent except for the sound of multiple people crying now. Not just my mother anymore. Multiple people. I can hear at least 5 or 6 different people sobbing or sniffling or trying to muffle their emotional reactions. He made it very, very clear, I say, carefully folding the letter back up and putting it in my pocket like it's made of the most precious material in the world. This money is for her and only her, not a family fund, not an emergency fund, not money to borrow from. These were his explicit, written, legally documented final wishes. But you didn't care what he wanted, did you? You read this letter, or maybe you didn't even bother reading it at all. Maybe you just threw it in a drawer somewhere and forgot about it completely, and then you spent the next 2 years systematically, methodically, deliberately stealing every single dollar he'd saved for me over 18 years. Because you had a golden child who needed funding for his business dreams. Because you had a lifestyle you wanted to maintain and upgrade. Because you had home improvement projects you wanted to complete. Because you had European vacations you wanted to take. And what did it matter if your daughter drowned in student loan debt? What did it matter if I had to work 3 jobs simultaneously and sleep 4 hours a night just to survive? What did it matter if I developed a diagnosed clinical anxiety disorder from the chronic stress? Derek needed another $50,000 for his startup company. That was obviously way, way more important than honoring your own father's dying wish, than keeping your solemn promise to a dying man. Click. The 28th of December, 2008. Withdrawal amount, $29,000. Memo line. Derek's wedding expenses, venue deposit, catering, live band, flowers, photographer. Derek got married in December of 2008. I continue, my voice steady again now, back under complete control. It was a beautiful wedding. Absolutely gorgeous. I was there. I was a bridesmaid, actually, wearing the lavender dress that cost $300. 300 guests in attendance. Ceremony at that expensive church downtown. Reception at this very country club we're standing in right now. Live band that played until 2 in the morning. Open bar with top-shelf liquor. Plated dinner with appetizers and salad course and main course and dessert. 5-tier wedding cake from that fancy bakery. Destination bachelor party weekend in Las Vegas. Destination bachelorette party weekend in Napa Valley. Professional photographer and videographer to document everything. The whole 9 yards. The full, traditional, expensive wedding experience. I had to borrow $200 from my college roommate just to afford the bridesmaid dress you picked out, Mom. Do you remember that phone conversation we had? I'll refresh your memory since it's been a while and maybe you've forgotten the details. I called you about 3 weeks before the wedding and I said, Mom, I'm really sorry to ask this, but I'm a little short on money right now. Is there any way you could help me with the cost of the bridesmaid dress? It's $300 total, and I just don't have that much cash available right now. And you know what you said to me in response? I don't wait for her to answer. She couldn't speak right now even if she wanted to. She's crying too hard, gasping for breath between sobs. You said, and I quote exactly, Sophie, honey, we've already spent so much money on this wedding. We're basically broke right now. We've maxed out our budget. Can't you just put it on a credit card and pay it off over a few months? A credit card. You suggested that I, a broke college freshman, working 2 part-time minimum wage jobs and barely making rent every month, put a $300 bridesmaid dress on a credit card that I didn't even... Have because I was 18 years old with no credit history, for a wedding that you were funding with $29,000 stolen directly from my college fund, money that was legally designated for my education, money that my grandfather saved for me by working construction for 63 years. I turn slowly and deliberately and look directly at Derek, really look at him, make sustained and uncomfortable eye contact. He's still crying, but I need him to hear this part especially clearly. Derek, I need to ask you a direct question, and I need you to answer me honestly in front of all these people. I say to him, did you know? Did you have any idea, any clue, any suspicion whatsoever that your wedding, your beautiful, expensive, no expense spared fairy tale wedding that cost more than most people make in an entire year was paid for with money that Abuelo Miguel saved for my education? His voice cracks like he's going through puberty again. He clears his throat, tries again, can barely get words out. Sophie, I swear to God, I swear on everything. I thought they said it came from their savings account. They don't have a savings account. I cut him off, my voice rising in volume for the first time tonight, getting louder, getting sharper. They have never had a savings account with that kind of money in it. They have my college fund. That's what they have. That's all they've ever had. Where the hell did you think two people who'd been claiming poverty and financial hardship for years, who'd been telling me they couldn't afford to help with my $50 textbooks, suddenly got hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash to throw around on your business and your wedding and everything else? He doesn't answer, can't form words, just sits there with tears streaming down his face and his wife's arm around his shoulders, looking absolutely destroyed. I take a deep breath, force myself to get back under control, modulate my voice back down to a normal volume, click to the next slide. The slideshow continues. I've got slides prepared for every single major withdrawal over those crucial 2 years, every significant expense, every choice my parents made to spend my money instead of protecting it like they were legally and morally obligated to do. January 2009. Withdrawal, $18,000. Memo. Derek's business, Martinez Consulting LLC. Office lease deposit, furniture, equipment, initial marketing. March 2009. Withdrawal, $22,000. Memo. Home improvement, master bathroom complete renovation, jacuzzi tub installation. June 2009. Withdrawal, $19,000. Memo. Summer vacation, Martha's Vineyard vacation home rental, 4 weeks. September 2009. Withdrawal, $16,000. Memo. Derek's business expansion, hiring first 3 employees, payroll. December 2009. Withdrawal, $21,000. Memo. New car purchase, Lexus RX 350, down payment. I click through them all methodically, relentlessly, one after another, each withdrawal with its date and amount and purpose, each choice they made. Each time they decided their wants were more important than my needs. The numbers just keep adding up and up and up. Should I keep going? I ask the room, looking around at all the shocked, horrified faces. Because I have documentation, actual bank records, for literally every single withdrawal from this account, every single dollar of my inheritance that you spent while telling me you were broke, while watching me work the night shift at a 24-hour diner from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., serving drunk college students and cleaning up their vomit, making $8 an hour plus tips, while watching me skip meals to save money for textbooks, while watching me have full-blown panic attacks in the campus health center about how I was going to afford next semester, while letting me graduate 4 years later with $97,000 in student loan debt that I am still paying off 8 years later at $782 per month, while telling me repeatedly that I just needed to be more responsible with money and make better financial choices when I called you begging literally down on my knees, sobbing and begging for any kind of help at all. Someone in the crowd, I think it's my cousin Roberto, my mom's nephew, says Jesus fucking Christ loud enough that everyone in the room hears it clearly, and nobody shushes him or tells him to watch his language because they're all thinking the exact same thing. Click. The slide changes to something different now. It's not a single withdrawal receipt anymore. It's a collage, a carefully constructed comparison, a side-by-side split-screen presentation. On the left side of the screen, chronologically arranged photos from my parents' Facebook and Instagram accounts over the years. A cruise ship vacation to Alaska with glaciers in the background. A brand new Lexus SUV parked in their driveway with a giant red bow on the hood for Christmas. A wine tasting weekend in Napa Valley with them holding expensive glasses and smiling. Their 25th wedding anniversary trip to Hawaii with sunset beach photos, Christmas in Aspen with them in ski gear on the slopes, new living room furniture from some expensive boutique store. All of these photos showing them smiling and laughing and living their absolute best life, with captions like "so blessed and grateful" and "living the dream," and "hard work really does pay off," and "you only live once," and "enjoying the fruits of our labor." On the right side of the screen, screenshots from my own social media accounts from the exact same time periods, the exact same months and years, arranged to show the stark contrast. Me in my grease-stained diner uniform at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday night, holding a pot of coffee and looking absolutely exhausted, with the caption, "Hour 14 of my shift." 2 more hours until I can go home and sleep for 3 hours before my Saturday morning shift at the library. Send caffeine and prayers. Me at the university library at 3:30 in the morning during finals week, surrounded by towers of textbooks and empty energy drink cans, with the caption, "If anyone needs me for the next 3 days, I'll be living in this study carrel in the basement. Please send food." Or just end my suffering. Me sitting in my beat-up 1997 Honda Civic with tears streaming down my face and mascara running, with the caption, "Student loan payment just went through." There goes this week's grocery budget. Ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches for dinner every night this week, I guess. At least I'm getting my degree, right? Me wearing scrubs at my third job as a medical office assistant, looking so exhausted I appear almost gray, with the caption, "Job number 3, because apparently one bachelor's degree requires 3 separate incomes." Anyone else feel like they're slowly dying inside? Just me? Cool, cool, cool. The contrast between the two sides of the screen is absolutely devastating, brutally stark, impossible to ignore or explain away. My parents living in complete luxury, taking expensive vacations and buying new cars and renovating their house, while I was literally crying in my car about not being able to afford groceries. The juxtaposition couldn't be more clear or more damning. The room collectively gasps. Not just a few people this time, the entire room, every single person. Actual, audible, shocked gasps of horror and disbelief and disgust. My Aunt Carmen stands up abruptly from her table, her chair scraping very loudly against the polished hardwood floor, and walks out of the ballroom without saying a single word to anyone, without looking at my parents, just grabs her purse and leaves. I watch her go, and then I continue with my presentation because I'm not done yet, not even close. So while I was working 50-plus hours a week at 3 separate jobs on top of maintaining a full 18-credit course load every single semester, while I was sleeping maybe 4 hours a night if I was extremely lucky, while I was skipping meals to save money so I could afford my required textbooks and lab fees, while I was developing a formally diagnosed generalized anxiety disorder from the chronic, unrelenting stress that I still deal with today and probably will for the rest of my entire life, and that requires daily medication and regular therapy sessions, you two were living your absolute best life, taking cruises, buying new cars, renovating your house room by room, funding Derek's business ventures, drinking expensive wine in Napa Valley, skiing in Aspen, all of it with my money. Money my grandfather specifically, legally, explicitly designated for my education and only my education. Money you were supposed to protect as trustees. Money you were supposed to safeguard until I turned 18. Instead, you systematically stole it. You cleaned it out almost completely, withdrawal by withdrawal, expense by expense, lie by lie, excuse by excuse, until there was almost nothing left for me when I actually needed it. Click. The next slide is a detailed spreadsheet that I created myself using Excel, spending dozens of hours making sure every single number was perfectly accurate. It's beautiful, professionally formatted, color-coded by category. Every single withdrawal from the account is listed chronologically with dates and amounts and purposes and running totals. Personal expenses highlighted in red, Derek's expenses highlighted in blue, investment expenses highlighted in green. At the very bottom of the spreadsheet, in the largest, boldest font, are the final totals. I had this entire financial analysis independently verified by 3 different certified financial analysts and 2 forensic accountants who specialize in this exact type of case. I say, pointing at the spreadsheet with my laser pointer. The numbers you see here are actually quite conservative, quite restrained. This is purely the direct financial calculation, not including things like emotional damages or pain and suffering or the cost of 8 years of therapy I've needed to process the betrayal and trauma or the ongoing cost of the anxiety medication I have to take every single day for the rest of my life or the opportunities I missed because I was working 3 jobs instead of being able to do unpaid internships. This is just the pure, cold, hard financial math. I use the laser pointer to highlight the totals at the bottom of the screen, one by one, making sure everyone can see them clearly. Principal amounts stolen directly from the college fund between August 2008 and my 18th birthday in March 2010, $236,153. Compound interest that money would have earned if it had been left completely untouched and properly invested in a standard index fund according to the trust documents. $89,247. Total rental income generated by the investment property at 847 Maple Street that was purchased using my money as the down payment. $184,800 over 11 years. Current fair market value appreciation of said property minus what you originally paid for it, $185,000. Grand total of direct financial damages, $438,047. The number hovers on the screen in enormous, bold red text that takes up almost a quarter of the entire projection, $438,047. $438,047. My mother is now sobbing so violently, so hard, that she's actually making that horrible hiccuping, gasping, choking sound that happens when you cry so hard you literally can't catch your breath properly. My father has both hands covering his face completely and his shoulders are shaking uncontrollably. Derek looks like he might actually vomit right there at the table. His face has gone a concerning shade of green. But you know what really gets me? I say, and my voice drops lower now, becomes more personal, more intimate, more dangerous. You know what part of all of this I still cannot quite wrap my head around, even after all these years of thinking about it, analyzing it, trying to understand it? Here's the part that truly haunts me. You didn't just steal my money and spend it on yourselves and Derek. You didn't just watch me struggle and suffer and barely survive on 4 hours of sleep and ramen noodles. You made me feel like it was my fault that I was struggling. You told me repeatedly that I should actually be grateful for the character-building experience of working my way through college. You posted on Facebook about how incredibly proud you were that I was so independent and self-sufficient and resilient and strong. You turned my suffering that you directly caused by stealing my inheritance into a virtue. into something I should be proud of, into something I should be thankful for, into a story you could tell about what great parents you were, how you raised such a strong, capable daughter who didn't need any help from anyone because she was just so naturally gifted at handling adversity. I pull out another piece of paper from my folder. This one is a printed email with the full header information visible. This is an email that my mother sent to her younger sister, my Aunt Patricia, who's sitting right over there at table 7 on November 14th, 2010. I say, Patricia, you definitely remember this email. I know you do because we talked about it last week when I told you I was planning this. Would you like me to read this email out loud to everyone here? Or would you prefer to remain silent? Patricia doesn't say anything, just nods slowly with tears streaming down her face. Please don't, my mother starts to beg. Oh, I'm absolutely going to, I cut her off. You spent 11 years lying to me. The least you can do is sit there and listen while I tell the truth for 10 minutes. I read the email word for word. Dear Patricia, I know you asked me at Thanksgiving last week why we're not helping Sophie more with her college expenses, especially since you know about the college fund Dad set up for her before he died. I want to explain our thinking on this because I know it might seem confusing from the outside. The truth is, Sophie really doesn't need our help the way Derek does. She's always been so capable, so independent, so self-sufficient, so naturally good at just figuring things out on her own. She's like a rock, literally nothing really bothers her or gets her down. She just handles whatever life throws at her and keeps moving forward. Derek, on the other hand, is much more sensitive, much more fragile emotionally, much more vulnerable. He really needs our emotional and financial support to thrive and succeed. So we made the conscious decision to focus our limited resources where they're really needed most. Sophie can handle anything life throws at her. She'll be completely fine no matter what happens. She always lands on her feet. But Derek genuinely needs us. We're just trying to be good, thoughtful parents to both our children by giving each of them exactly what they actually need, rather than treating them identically. I hope you understand our reasoning here. We're doing what we think is best. Love, Carol. I fold the email very carefully and very deliberately and put it back in my folder. The silence in the room is absolutely deafening. I was like a rock, I say quietly. So you didn't need to help me. You didn't need to protect the inheritance my grandfather left me. You didn't need to care that I was literally working myself into a medically diagnosed anxiety disorder. You didn't need to worry about me crying myself to sleep every night from exhaustion and stress, because I could handle anything. I always land on my feet. Meanwhile, your sensitive, fragile son needed you to steal my entire inheritance so you could fund his business dreams and pay for his expensive wedding and help him buy his first house and support him in every possible way. Nobody says anything. The silence is total. And here's what happens now, I say, and my voice becomes pure steel, cold and hard and absolutely final. I filed a lawsuit this morning at 8 a.m. when the courthouse opened. It's already been officially served to you by a process server who handed the documents to Dad at his office at 9:30 a.m. Breach of fiduciary duty, theft, fraud, conversion of assets, unjust enrichment, violation of trust. My attorney is one of the best in the state, and she believes we have an extremely strong, almost ironclad case for substantial punitive damages as well. Given how systematic and deliberate and egregious and prolonged this whole thing was over multiple years. We're suing for the full $438,047 that I've calculated as direct financial damages, plus all legal fees and court costs, plus interest compounded from the date of each withdrawal, plus punitive damages. My lawyer conservatively estimates that once we get in front of a judge and jury and present all this evidence and testimony, we can probably get the total amount up to somewhere around $600,000, possibly even more depending on how angry the jury gets when they see everything. My father's personal attorney, because of course there's a lawyer here, My parents always have their expensive attorney at every important social event stands up quickly. He's an older man, probably in his late 60s, wearing a suit that probably costs more than I make in a month. Miss Martinez, this is highly inappropriate behavior. If you have legal grievances against your parents, they should absolutely be handled through proper legal channels and court procedures, not aired publicly at a social gathering. Sit down, Mr. Peterson, I say without even bothering to look at him, keeping my eyes locked directly on my parents. Right now, you're here tonight as a personal guest at a retirement party, not as legal counsel in an official capacity. This isn't a legal proceeding. This isn't a deposition. This isn't a court hearing. This is me standing in front of 200 people who my parents have been lying to for years and telling them the actual truth about who my parents really are and what they actually did to me. Now sit down immediately before I have the country club security escort you out of this building. He sits down immediately, probably because he knows I'm 100% correct, and there's literally nothing he can legally do to stop me from speaking. I turn my full attention back to the crowd of guests who are all sitting there in absolutely stunned silence, watching this family drama unfold in real time like it's the most shocking reality TV show they've ever witnessed. Most of you people in this room have known me since I was a child, I say, making direct eye contact with various individuals around the ballroom. Some of you watched me grow up from the time I was in diapers. You came to my birthday parties when I was little. You saw me at family gatherings and church events and neighborhood barbecues. You watched me play soccer and saw my report cards and heard about my college acceptance letters. But you didn't really know me, did you? You didn't really know anything about my actual life. Because my parents don't talk about me. They don't share stories about me. They don't bring me up in conversations unless someone specifically asks. I'm not part of the carefully curated narrative they've constructed about their lives. I don't fit into the story they tell. They talk about Derek constantly. Always Derek. Derek the entrepreneur. Derek the Stanford MBA. Derek the success story. Derek the golden child who just needed a little bit more support, a little bit more help, a little bit more investment, a little bit more money. Always just a little bit more. I look directly at Derek again, really look at him, hold his gaze. Derek, I want to be absolutely clear about something. I say directly to him in front of everyone. I don't hate you. I want you to know that. I'm angry at you, absolutely. I'm furious at you. I will probably be angry at you for a very long time, because you took the money. You took it for your business, for your wedding, for your house down payment, for everything. You took hundreds of thousands of dollars over several years, and you never once, not one single time, questioned where two supposedly broke parents who'd been claiming dire poverty for years suddenly got all that cash to give. You never wondered. You never asked inconvenient questions. You just took it and said thank you and moved on with your life and let me drown. And that makes you complicit in what they did to me even if you didn't know the specific source. But I don't hate you. You're as much a product of their favoritism and dysfunction as I am, just on the opposite end. They made you the golden child and they made me the forgotten child, and we both suffered from that in different ways. I turn back to face my parents one final time. But you two, I say. And now there's real emotion in my voice, real pain, real rage that I've been holding back. You two made a conscious choice every single time. Every withdrawal was a deliberate choice. Every time I called you crying and begging for help and you said no, that was a choice. Every time you posted vacation photos on Facebook while I was working a night shift at a diner, that was a choice. Every time you gave Derek more money while I was eating ramen noodles for every single meal, that was a choice. You chose him over me, systematically, deliberately, consciously, repeatedly, for 11 entire years. And you didn't just choose him financially, you chose him emotionally, you chose him socially, you chose him in every single way that parents can choose between children. And you made me feel like that was my fault, like I was the problem. Like I was too independent, too capable, too strong to need you. But that wasn't true. I needed you desperately. I begged you for help. And you said no every single time because you'd already spent all my money on your other child. I hold up the final document in my folder. It's official looking, with a legal firm's letterhead at the top, stapled together with multiple pages. You have exactly 72 hours from this moment, from 8:47 p.m. tonight, to deliver a certified check for $438,047 to my attorneys. Office, I say with complete clarity. If you deliver that check within the 72-hour deadline, I will withdraw the lawsuit and we can all move on with our lives and never speak to each other again. If you don't deliver that check within exactly 72 hours, we proceed to full litigation and trial. And when we go to trial, all of this becomes official public record that anyone can access. Every single document, every single withdrawal, every single lie you told me, every single time you chose Derek over me, every single detail of how you stole your own daughter's college fund to pay for European vacations and kitchen renovations. It all becomes part of the permanent court record. The local newspapers will cover the trial because it's a dramatic human interest story. The legal blogs will write articles about it because it's an interesting case of fiduciary duty and trust violation. Everyone in your social circle, your business community, your church, your country club will know exactly what you did in excruciating, documented, legally verified detail. I pause and look around the room. But honestly, I add, I think most of them already know everything now. I set the microphone down on the stage very carefully, very deliberately. It makes a loud thunk that echoes through the completely silent ballroom like a gunshot going off. 200 people. Not a single one of them is making any sound at all. Everyone is just staring in absolute shock. I walk off the stage slowly, down the 3 steps carefully, across the polished hardwood floor, past tables full of shocked, silent guests with their mouths hanging open, past my brother who's sobbing into his wife's shoulder, past my parents who are frozen in their seats like they've been turned to stone by Medusa, through the elegant double doors with the brass handles and out into the cool October evening air. My car is parked exactly where I planned, near the exit for a quick getaway. My hands are shaking so badly I can barely get the key in the ignition, but I manage. I start the car, and I drive away slowly, carefully, leaving absolute chaos behind me. I make it approximately 3 blocks before I have to pull over into an empty grocery store parking lot because I'm crying so hard I literally can't see the road anymore. My phone is already ringing. I check the screen through blurry vision. Abuela Rosa. I answer. Abuela? Mija, she says, crying. Your abuelo would be so proud.